Good afternoon, everyone. It's Tom Klein coming to you from lovely Napa, California, where the weather is warm and the wine is good. Today, I wanted to continue with part 2 of 10 plus 10 equals exposure. Now, I want you to think about these 10 different things and whether your dealership is prepared to deal with them from a risk perspective or a compliance perspective. So I'm going to go through them very briefly with you, and we're going to see how you do. The first is, what would you do if a regulator walked into your business? How would you handle it? Do you have a plan? Do you know what to say? Do you know what irritates regulators? And what possible things could regulators walk into your business and ask you? That's number one. Number two, one very large dealership group with more than 80 stores allowed the Federal Trade Commission to survey their customers over wrongdoing. Now, if the Federal Trade Commission came into your business, would you know how to handle it? And then secondly, if they had enough leverage over you to force you to allow them to do a survey of your customers, which can only end poorly, how would you handle that? What would you do? Would you just turn it over to your lawyer and let the lawyer mess with it? Do you have a plan? Do you know what you would do in that case? So that's number two. Number three, have you started your work on the Gramm Leach Bliley updated safeguards rule? The new regulations go into effect on December the 9th of 2022 this year. And the new regulations aren't as simple as just being able to pay for a new app that somebody can monitor, and that's it. The new regulations are complicated. They're a little onerous. They require some good old-fashioned shoe leather, some investigation, a little Sherlock Holmes work. And this is nothing to slough off, because it's going to take the typical dealer 2 to 3 months at a minimum to see how you're going to comply with that. So that's question number 3. Number 4, is anyone tracking your waste, your used oil, your used batteries, your tires, how they're being disposed of? Number 1. Number 2, are the vendors who are disposing of these things, do they have insurance? Is anyone in your organization tracking that insurance? The problem here is that a dealer can be held personally and jointly and severally liable for pollution claims. And so that's a problem. So you should certainly be tracking these things. Number 5, do you have a recall policy for vehicles? Whether or not it's your brand, so if you're a Toyota dealer, and are you fixing the recalls before you resell the vehicles? Very important. The manufacturers get upset if you're a Toyota dealership and you're not. Sometimes there are stop sales on those vehicles. Obviously, those have to be done before you sell them. But do you have a policy put in place where used cars, someone's checking the used cars, making sure that those recalls are being done? Whether it's your brand or not, you can always send them down the road and have another dealer do it. It's of no cost to you and certainly minimizes your liability. In the case that an accident happened, someone would try to hold you responsible that you sold them a vehicle and should have known that there was a recall on that particular vehicle. Number 6, we all know about the IRS 8300 rule. Most times when I go in dealerships, the dealership says, I've got this buttoned up, it's all good, we are compliant here, and about 90% of the time, the receipting is not being done properly. There's no way of determining whether a personal check is coming in just by looking at a receipt, or whether that's a money order or a cashier's check, all the different things that can be considered cash. So do you have a good system there for parsing out every single type of, every single kind of cash according to the IRS, and then having a way of checking it? Number 7, do you have anybody checking behind your red flag compliance? I was recently at a dealer checking that issue, and it was the F&I managers were actually able to blow right past that on the software and didn't pay any attention to it. So in this particular case, no one was paying attention to red flag compliance, and this is a problem. I was recently hired as an expert witness for a dealership who was sued in federal court over an identity theft. Somebody came into their dealership with a stolen identity and bought a car, and they were trying to hold the dealership liable. So don't think that red flag compliance isn't important. It happens all the time. Number 8, as a dealership, are you sending out adverse action letters according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act? It's important to mitigate your risk against class action lawsuits, and the penalties for non-compliance here are big. So that's a big one. Number 9, are you selling repossessed vehicles or salvage vehicles without disclosing the status? That one's pretty self-explanatory. And finally, number 10, does your staff know how to handle an Office of Foreign Asset Controls or OFAC hit, and how to document it and what the right things to do? If they don't, you need to put that in procedure in place. Certainly glad to answer any questions on all of these things. Thanks for watching today. I'm Tom Klein. Thanks for visiting us here in Napa Valley, and thanks for seeing things from a better vantage point.